If you guys want to hear more from me, make sure to check out jbradio.com and JB Radio on YouTube. I have a hockey podcast on there every Tuesday, and this Friday will be the first episode of my Detroit Red Wings podcast. So if you guys like the channel and are interested in hearing more from me, make sure you go check this out. Links in the description below. In today's video, we're going to be talking about where I think Erik Karlsson is going to be traded and some possible trade packages that could potentially happen. So let's get right into the video. Over the past couple of days, trade talks involving Erik Karlsson have really heated up, and it seems like a trade involving the generational defenseman is not that far away, and it could happen today or in the next couple of days. And Ottawa has to be really careful here because Erik Karlsson is the face of your franchise, and he has been for a long time. He's a defenseman like none other. We haven't seen a guy like this, and I don't think we will see a guy like this for a long time. I don't think Rasmus Dahlin is going to have the offensive production that Erik Karlsson will. I mean, in 71 games this year, he had 9 goals and 53 assists for 62 points, and this was seen as a down year for Erik Karlsson, so that just goes to show how good this guy really is. In his career, he's played in 627 games and has 126 goals and 392 assists for 518 total points. The two teams that have really been heated up, and it seems like if he's going to get traded, it's going to be to one of either of these two teams, and that is the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, a couple of reports came out not long ago that the Dallas Stars currently are the front runner to land Erik Karlsson, but the Vegas Golden Knights I would not count out because they have really been in talks about Erik Karlsson since last year's trade deadline. First, taking a look at the Dallas Stars and what some possible pieces could be involving a trade with Erik Karlsson. I look at a guy like Julius Honka, who's a young up-and-coming defenseman, and if you trade away your franchise defenseman, you're going to want either a defenseman that's ready to play in the NHL now, who's relatively young, or a defensive prospect, and Julius Honka is kind of in between. And then you have Radek Faksa, who is another really talented player who I think would be involved. I have Miro Heiskanen on here, but I have him in red because I really do not see the Dallas Stars trading him, even if it is for Erik Karlsson. I look at guys like Rope Hintz, Esa Lindell, and Jamel Smith. All some good pieces. I could see a trade involving Julius Honka and then maybe throw in a guy like Lindell and Hintz or Smith and Hintz and stuff like that. But in a trade with Erik Karlsson, the Dallas Stars are most likely going to have to give up 1 or 2 first-round draft picks. But these are just a couple of players who I think could be involved in a trade if it is to happen with Erik Karlsson. Now looking at some pieces that the Vegas Golden Knights could offer up in a trade with Karlsson. You look at their 3 first-round draft picks from last year: Nick Suzuki, Erik Brannstrom, and Cody Glass. Like I said before with Heiskanen, I have Cody Glass in red because it really does seem like that the Vegas Golden Knights do not want to give up Cody Glass in any type of trade, and reports have came out over since last trade deadline that Cody Glass was really what Ottawa wanted, but Vegas was not wanting to give him up, so that's kind of why a trade hasn't happened between these two teams yet. Then I look at current players on the roster like Shea Theodore, who's a young defenseman who's very, very good. I saw a lot of great things from him so far throughout his career, and I think he really looked good in the playoffs for Vegas. He had a couple bad games here and there, but I think all around he's very solid. And then you have a young player like Alex Tuck, and then obviously a young goaltender in Malcolm Subban. So any of these players on here I think would be packaged into a deal if there is one made between the Vegas Golden Knights and Ottawa Senators involving Karlsson. But like I said, I really don't see Cody Glass for Vegas or Miro Heiskanen from the Dallas Stars being traded if there is a trade going down. Now let's take a look at some trades I put together that I think if there's an Erik Karlsson trade to happen, these are kind of what I think it is going to look like. Here's a good one, in my opinion: Julius Honka and 2 first-round draft picks next year and the year after, in exchange for Erik Karlsson. Obviously, no protections on them draft picks. And I think this is all around just a solid deal. Obviously, Dallas is getting a fantastic defenseman to go along with their amazing offensive core that they have. And the Ottawa Senators are getting a good young up-and-coming defenseman in Julius Honka, who played around 40 games last year in the NHL, and the 2019 first-round pick and a 2020 first-round pick. And you don't really know, because the Dallas Stars are weird. Sometimes they'll finish in first in the division and lose early in the playoffs, or sometimes they won't even make the playoffs. So those first-round draft picks could really turn out to be anything, but this still is kind of scary in my opinion for the Ottawa Senators, as Erik Karlsson is an amazing player, and you really don't know what them draft picks are going to turn into. Here's another one with the Dallas Stars. It would be Julius Honka, Radek Faksa instead of the 2020 first-round pick, and obviously you still have the 2019 first-round pick in exchange for Erik Karlsson. But like I said, this is scary, and that's why, in my opinion, if Erik Karlsson is going to be traded, I don't think it's going to be to the Dallas Stars. Even though apparently they're the front runner right now, I just don't see it if it's not involving Miro Heiskanen, because other than him, in my opinion, they don't really have the pieces to make a fair trade. But this is a decent offer, but again, it's just so risky because most likely none of the pieces you get in return will ever be an Erik Karlsson or a player of his caliber. So Ottawa really does have to be careful here. And lastly, a trade between the Ottawa Senators and Vegas Golden Knights involving Karlsson that I could potentially see happening is sending Nick Suzuki and Shea Theodore and the 2019 first-round pick over to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Erik Karlsson. And I kind of like this deal more than any of the ones that I put together with the Dallas Stars. I think Nick Suzuki is going to turn out to be a fantastic player, and Shea Theodore, in my opinion, is a really underrated young defenseman that no one really talks about, and I do think he has a brighter future in the league than Julius Honka does, and you're still getting a first-round pick in this deal, and some Vegas fans could even say this is too much for Erik Karlsson, but you could say if you had Erik Karlsson this year, you probably would have won the Stanley Cup. So, it goes both ways. You have to give up a lot to get something of Erik Karlsson's caliber in return, and he's a generational defenseman. He's fantastic, and if you add him to a team that just made the Stanley Cup Finals, they would be very deadly next year, especially they've added Paul Stastny, and they have guys like Cody Glass and Brandstrom coming up, and I don't really see them moving Brandstrom or Glass. I think they're very high on them. If they were to move one of their young prospects, I do think it would be Nick Suzuki, and I think this trade would benefit both teams kind of in the long run, so this is kind of what I could see happening, and in my opinion, all in all, I think Erik Karlsson will get traded to the Vegas Golden Knights if there is a trade that happens. So that is going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure to let me know down in the comment section where you think Erik Karlsson is going to get traded, or if you don't think he will, and what kind of package do you think the Senators will get in return. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.